Welcome back to the second episode of Time-lapse Weekly. This week we have two new builds, a town hall and a sugarcane farm, so let's get to it. Let's begin with the more interesting build, the town hall. This time I've managed to record the process of building something in the creative world before rebuilding it in survival, because I thought that might be interesting for some of you. First of all, the idea. I really like classicism architecture and managed to find a town hall that looked pretty good. And to be fair, simple to build, it is just a glorified rectangle. I did decide to use smooth sandstone, again, although I really hate having to gather it. But you can't argue, it does look pretty nice. And I didn't want a giant white glob in the middle of the town. Or it could be that my friend asked me what blocks I needed before knowing what to build, and I said smooth sandstone and birch, completely expecting them to reject such a challenging request. And guess what? A whole minute later, I swear it was no longer a shulker box, completely full of the stuff. Anyway, getting back to the main point, I decided to use a block I haven't used yet in building. Quartz, because the same friend had built a really nice courthouse and it seemed like that would fit the theme. While I'm building in creative, I do like to mess around with a bunch of stuff, and for this build in particular, I felt like it was lacking something. It looked too boring from the outside. I initially was going to try to build a completely different town hall after seeing how it wasn't really turning out how I wanted it to. However, when I logged on the next day, I thought, I've spent enough time on this already, why not just try to finish it? And turns out adding in the columns on all sides and other major adjustments really finished it. By the way, if you're wondering why there is a giant hole or I haven't built any of the interior, it's because the rooms don't have a fully planned purpose yet, and the hole is for a community storage system, so I didn't need to build it there. Do stay tuned though, because I did make sure to add all of the finishing touches in survival, and not gonna lie, I'm really proud of this one. Once I was happy with the build, I went onto the server and began building. I kind of underestimated how difficult it was going to be to gather the quartz, even though we do have the villagers that trade it. That's why the whole process slows down near the end. The other blocks weren't as bad, but you might have noticed some cuts here and there, and that's because I went to the Nether and the mod I'm using for the replays just show a white screen. So unless you want to get flashbanged, you gotta be grateful that I add some cuts in here. I think the more difficult part was getting to the landscaping, as well, I mean, at the start there was a giant hill there, so planning everything out and making it look kind of nice is difficult. But we still have to finish the build, so all I can say is that it is coming along really well, and the natural light that comes in through the roof and windows with shaders looks actually stunning. So you just gotta wait for the end result, that's all I gotta say. You gotta be patient, because it's definitely worth it. Here's the lighting, and here is a zoom through the building. It looks great. Anyway, I did make sure to expand the paths as they were long overdue, and out of boredom, I kind of replaced all of the stone to dirt. Was there a point to this? Not really. It doesn't really benefit me, but it does make the place look more diverse and nicer, so I guess that's something. Whilst you're listening to this, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell too. Additionally, if you feel like it, leave a comment, let me know how I can improve, what did I mess up, what was good, what was bad, or just say you like tortillas, I don't know. I believe that adding the greenery really added the finishing touches the building was missing. Of course, if you want to see the storage room, you'll have to stay tuned. The next build kind of spiraled out of control quite quickly, as you'll soon see. I started off with colonizing a part of the village and digging out a piece of flat land. To be fair, I don't really know why I did that, it just looks cool. Then I dug out a little trench and began building the sugarcane farm. I decided to build this only on the server because I know how sugarcane farms work, and it wasn't meant to look amazing, but as you're probably witnessing, unless you're listening to my voice, weirdo, I do some unnecessary stuff, like placing slabs everywhere because I thought it was necessary to build the farms above the redstone. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. By the way, to give credit where credit is due, I'm pretty sure the item elevator I decided to use to bring the items up was based on what B-dubs used on Hermitcraft a really long time ago. Pretty sure it might have been season 8, and the design has been stuck in my head since, so I might have changed it, but it's from memory. As I'm reading this, I kind of just realized I could have used a water elevator and some hoppers. In the end, the result does look pretty nice, but this is where things get kind of out of hand. I wanted to build a tiny, small, minuscule path in the farm area, but for some dumb reason, I decided, nah, I'm going to do the whole thing. So I decided to build a path from the farm area to spawn. Initially, as the keen-eyed people might notice, I did try to replace all of the stone with dirt, but after realizing that that was gonna take a really long time, I just placed the path and then placed some dirt blocks around the path to remind myself the shame and horrors of not finishing the project the whole way through. But I didn't even want to do this, I didn't expect that I was gonna do this, so it still looks pretty nice. For the results, I do think the builds turned out nice, especially the town hall, but I do think the sugarcane farm could use some extra work, like making the center gap 3 blocks wide instead of 2, but I really don't want to destroy half of the thing just for the visuals of it looking better. As long as it works, it works. I guess that's what happens when you just build naturally, but you gotta do that from time to time. There can't be law and order everywhere. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and make sure to comment below any improvements to be made, or anything about the builds in general.